Hi, and welcome to today's webinar, recorded webinar, Taking Care of My Bones, thanks to DPC Education Center. Remember, you can become a member of DPC at the website on your screen. And remember to follow them on their social media, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, or Instagram. So again, welcome. We thank you for joining the DPC Education Center webinar today to learn more about how food can help you take care of your bones. This program is for your information, and you will need to talk to your healthcare team about your specific situation. And remember to complete the brief feedback form at the end of the program, which also provides a way to suggest additional topics for the future. So a little bit about myself. I am María Eugenia Rodríguez. I'm a registered dietitian living in Puerto Rico. I am also board certified specialist in renal nutrition since 2014. I have worked with dialysis patients since 2009 and with early CKD adults in private practice since 2013. I am also the founder of ME Nutrition Services, which is my private practice, and those are my links if you want to follow me there. So today we're going to be talking about bone and mineral disorders in kidney disease. So this is a term that has been identified to describe all of these disorders that are mentioned below. So I'm going to go through each one of them. First one is secondary hyperparathyroidism. Then we have renal osteodystrophy, which exclusively defines alterations in bone morphology that are associated with chronic kidney disease. Disorders of vitamin D metabolism. Hyperphosphatemia, this is when your serum phosphate is elevated. Hypo and hypercalcemia, and this is when your serum calcium are either low or high. And also vascular calcifications. And vascular calcifications are the hardening of your blood vessels. So our blood vessels should be flexible, but when they get calcified, they harden. So that's not good for our heart health. So here, when we talk about bone health, we also have to talk about your heart health, okay? So both go hand in hand. And when all of these disorders occur, people have high mortality rates, have decreased quality of life, and have increased cardiovascular mortality. So it is really important to manage bone and mineral disorders. So here you have a graphic that shows what is happening when kidneys are not functioning well, okay? So you have several glands here. You have your parathyroid glands, which are in the thyroid area, which is the pink butterfly gland you had at the top. And the parathyroid glands are the ones that are in yellow, okay? And then we have bones. So you can see the relationships between kidney, bone, and your parathyroid glands. And then we also see the relationship when kidneys are not working well. Vitamin D decreases, calcium decreases, phosphorus is increased, less phosphorus is excreted from through your kidneys, through the urine. So more phosphorus remains in your body. And then that impacts the glands, the parathyroid glands, on how much of the PTH, which is the hormone they produce, and phosphorus, right, stimulates synthesis and secretion of the PTH, and it also stimulates the hyperplasia of the PTH gland. That means that the glands get bigger, And as they get bigger, they produce more PTH, and as time passes, that can make it harder to manage with medications, okay? So in animal studies, the PTH remained enlarged despite the serum phosphorus and serum PTH if they decrease. So if phosphorus and PTH decreased, these glands still remain enlarged, which is not good for our bone health, okay? And here we have another graph where I wanted to show that before phosphorus in your blood increases, there's other things that happen first. So in early stages of kidney disease, stage 1, 2, 3, we have a decrease in the vitamin D, and we have an increase in FGF23 and in your PTH. So it's important that you recognize that even if your phosphate levels are okay, you still should follow a low phosphorus diet, because all of the other things are happening, right? So even if you're in early kidney disease, low phosphorus diets is important. And if you're already on dialysis or in advanced stages of CKD, well, you know that it's important to maintain your phosphorus at goal, okay? So we can have good bone health and good heart health. So what is secondary hyperparathyroidism? It's when the bone remodeling increases and you lose your bone density and your structural integrity. That's not good, because that's not having healthy bones, and you have an increased risk also of fractures, okay? So secondary hyperparathyroidism can cause arterial stiffness and calcifications, which now you know it's not good for your heart. Also calciphylaxis. These are ulcers and painful infections of the skin, and these can be really hard to manage also. It can increase morbidity and mortality, and it can also cause erythropoietin-resistant anemia. So erythropoietin is a hormone that your kidneys secrete, and it's important to maintain your hemoglobin levels at goal. So when kidneys are not functioning properly, your doctor may recommend or may order erythropoietin. This is a hormone that can be injected, or if you are already in dialysis, it could be administered through your dialysis session. And that helps you maintain your hemoglobin levels adequate. So secondary hyperparathyroidism can cause that this hormone doesn't work and you continue with anemia. So that's the erythropoietin resistant anemia. And here I have some stats on how many people, what percentage of people in each stage of kidney disease have secondary hyperparathyroidism. So about 40% in stage 3 of chronic kidney disease, 70% in stage 4. In dialysis, it could be between 5 or 50%. And even after a transplant, people might still have high PTH levels on their blood, okay? So it's really important to, no matter what stage of kidney disease you are, that remembering that bone health is really, really important, and we want to manage it not only with food that we're going to talk about today, but with any medical management that your doctor believes you need at any of those stages, okay? So here we have a little bit about the different nutrients or different lab values that we can see that are related to bone health. So we have calcium, we have phosphorus, we have PTH, we have alkaline phosphatase, and we have vitamin D. So here you have the normal ranges, and then you can also see the guidelines on with what frequency these labs should be measured. So if you're in early stages, your doctor, right, might not need them as frequently as if you're in later stages. So here you can see, depending on what stage of kidney disease you are, you can see the frequency. And then I wanted to, before talking a little bit more about phosphorus, I wanted to talk a little bit about calcium, okay? So you have here the normal ranges, and either you have high phosphorus or low, about the calcium. If you have high calcium or low calcium in your bloodstream, it doesn't necessarily mean you need more calcium in your diet or less calcium in your diet, okay? So for kidney patients, usually the recommendation is between 800 and 1,000 milligrams of calcium a day, but that may change depending on how is your calcium level, okay? So that's really important to talk to your medical team and make sure how is your calcium level, and if you have to make any changes to your diet or to any supplements that can have calcium that you might be taking without a prescription, okay? Alkaline phosphatase is a measurement of hyperparathyroidism. So a high number can mean a high bone turnover, okay? And then vitamin D, it's estimated that about 40% of the US population might have a vitamin D deficiency. So if those levels are low, your doctor might order a high supplement of vitamin D for a short period of time, and then they can move you to a maintenance dose, okay? So that's why it's important that you at least once a year know what is your vitamin D levels, okay? Vitamin D is not very high in lots of foods. We primarily get it from the sun, okay? But if you're deficient, then supplementation is really important. Some foods that may have some vitamin D are trout, salmon, mushroom exposed to UV light, fortified milks, and milk substitutes. And before talking about phosphorus, I wanted to emphasize the importance of exercise, balance, and fall prevention for bone health. So exercise helps us maintain our muscle mass. Remember that as we age, we lose our muscle mass if we don't exercise. So weightlifting is important to preserve our muscle mass, as well as eating enough calories, okay? So that's really important. We want to avoid low-calorie diets or being underweight because that's not good for our bone health. As a rule of thumb, we should be exercising about 150 minutes per week. So choose whatever exercise you enjoy the best, and consider including resistant weights, okay? For balance, we can walk daily, we can do Tai Chi, we can do yoga, and we can even do dancing. So balance, having a good balance, reduces our risk of falling. And if we have good balance and we prevent falls, then we prevent also possible fractures, okay? So that's really important. So for bone health, remember exercise, balance, and fall prevention. So now let's start talking about phosphorus. So here we have how much phosphorus are adults eating in the United States compared to what's the adequate intake for the general population. So as you can see, women and men are eating more than the needed, the phosphorus needed daily. So you can imagine how hard can it be to follow a low phosphorus diet. And we're gonna go through different sources of phosphorus. So we have here whole grains, such as quinoa, cooked oats. We have also whole wheat bread. We have brown rice. We also have beans. So we have examples here of lentils, chickpeas, black beans. And then we can also have nuts and seeds. So here we have examples of how much phosphorus is in chia seeds, almonds, peanut butter, pecans, and walnuts. So you can see a variety. Some are higher, some are lower. But the good news is that when phosphorus is from plants, only 40 to 50% of the amount is absorbed. So our body is not very efficient absorbing phosphorus from these sources. So I usually don't worry about these foods being a high source of phosphorus in a diet. I think plants are really, really important because they are high in fiber, and we know fiber is important not only for kidney health, but for diabetes management, to avoid constipation. We know it's good for heart health also. So we shouldn't be afraid of plants because of the phosphorus content, okay? Now we're gonna move on to phosphorus from animal protein and dairy, and we're gonna talk about some examples here. So depending on the amount, right, more phosphorus you're gonna be eating. So be mindful that high protein diets are also high in phosphorus, okay? So it's not the same if you eat 3 ounces of a certain meat versus 6 ounces, okay? As the portion gets larger, you're gonna be eating more phosphorus. And dairy also is a source of phosphorus. 1 ounce of cheese or 4 ounces of milk have around 150 milligrams of phosphorus. So the absorption is a little bit higher here. It's about 60 to 80%. So our body will not absorb all of it, but it will absorb more than from plants. And which one of these sources is the worst, or which one does your body absorb more of? And it's the last one, the additives, okay? So phosphate additives, our body will absorb almost more than 90%, okay? So that's the first strategy. When we want to follow a low phosphorus diet, we start by avoiding those phosphate additives in foods, okay? So here's a study published in 2013 when these researchers went to the store and looked at, within the same category of foods, they looked at foods that had additives and those that did not have the additives. And they went to the lab and they measured how much phosphorus were on these foods. And I'm going to show you the 3 highest ones. So cheese, for example, cheese without versus with additive phosphates had a difference of 347 milligrams of phosphorus. And if we compare that number to the 700 milligrams of phosphorus that we need in a day, this is almost half, right? So the importance of choosing, if you choose to eat cheese, prefer those that don't have additive, because that's a way that you're gonna be eating less phosphorus. Here we have some cereals. The difference was 137 milligrams. And here we have packaged meats, okay? So the same researchers did with these foods, they did an example of a menu. So they had breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and then they chose alternatives with added phosphates, and then they did the same diet, but with the alternatives that didn't have the phosphate additives. And they estimated that the diet that had those phosphate additives was 41% higher in phosphorus than the example without the phosphate additives, okay? So be mindful of how these phosphate additives can impact your intake. So where are these phosphate additives? It can be in a lot of foods, okay? So I'm gonna mention some examples, starting with baking powder. So everything that is made with baking powder will probably have phosphate additives. So a substitute can be, we can substitute baking powder when we're baking with baking soda and cream of tartar. Cream of tartar is high in potassium, so if you need a potassium restriction, maybe that's not the best alternative for you. You can also use carbonated water, because the idea of baking powder is to make the baking product more fluffy. So carbonated water can also be a substitute. We have pancakes, cakes, donuts, and mixes. Here we have colas, cooked and dried cereals. So I've seen alternatives with and without. So it's really important that you look at the ingredients. We can no longer say you can eat this food. We really have to go into the details of the ingredient list, okay? So you can have cooked cereal or dry cereal if it doesn't have phosphate additives. Cheese, which we mentioned in the previous study, processed meats, dry drink mixes, egg products, meats, poultry, fish, seafood can have added phosphates, non-dairy creamers, milk substitutes, orange juice, pasta products, puddings, and breads and doughs, okay? So again, we can't say eat white bread or eat whole wheat bread. We have to say you can eat them if they don't have phosphate additives. And here I have an example. Many people believe turkey is gonna be healthier than, for example, pork or beef. And in this example, in the food label, they're telling us that this turkey bacon is lower in sodium. So it can seem that it could be a good alternative. If we go to the nutrition facts, it's true. 2 slices of this turkey bacon is 105 milligrams of sodium, which is lower in sodium. But when we go into the ingredient list, we find the sodium phosphate, okay? So because of the additives, this wouldn't be a good alternative. And this application, PhosFilter, was created by a renal dietitian in the US, and it makes it's gonna make your life much more easier because you can download it free to your phone, and you can start looking at the foods you buy at home. So start with your pantry, with the foods that you have in your fridge, and when you download the app, you're gonna turn on the camera and you're gonna point it into the ingredient list. So the application will scan the ingredients and it will tell you if it's a good alternative. It's gonna show a green box because it didn't find the phosphate additives. And if it finds a phosphate additive, then it will show a red box, okay? So start at home, start making a list of things you need to find an alternative, and then you can also use the app when you're at the store to check those ingredients. Sometimes I've read the ingredients once, and then when I read it for the second time, then I saw the additive, because sometimes those letters are really, really small. So the app, I think it's gonna be a great tool for you to find those additives. So let's talk about some practice points when trying to follow a low phosphorus diet. Try to avoid or limit your foods and beverages with added phosphates, and you're gonna look for substitutes, okay? So if by any chance you find that your bread or your cheese that you usually buy have those additives, then we are going to go to the store and find something that doesn't, okay? And then if you don't find it, consider making it from scratch. So let's say that you love oatmeal cookies, but you go to a store and you can't find a brand that doesn't have, so then think of making it from scratch at home, okay? Because you can then buy ingredients without phosphate additives, and then you control the ingredients, and then you have that food that you enjoy without the additive. You can also boil meats and throw away the water. This can reduce the phosphate content by 50%. And you can also use a pressure cooker that will lower the content of phosphorus from meats. Prefer less processed foods, less fast foods. Many fast foods, they use obviously processed foods and they have added phosphates. So if you cook more at home, which is the next point, then that's also a strategy for you to eat less phosphates. Be mindful of portions of animal protein and dairy products. When you are in early stages of kidney disease, one of the strategies to slow progression is to decrease your protein intake. So when you do that, you also decrease your phosphate intake. But if you're in dialysis, sometimes you might have heard, because of your albumin is low, that maybe they have recommended that you eat more animal proteins. So be mindful that if you increase your animal protein intake, you're also increasing your phosphate intake, okay? And then don't be afraid of including healthy plant foods like whole grains, nuts, seeds, beans, fruit, and vegetables, as long as they don't have added phosphates, because they also provide other nutrients that are important for bone health, such as vitamin C, magnesium, zinc, and vitamin K2. If you also need a potassium restriction, remember that within the plant foods, there are also lower alternatives of potassium. So talk with your dietitian so she or him can guide you through the best alternatives that are both low in phosphorus and low in potassium. If we can't manage phosphorus with only diet with your foods, then medications will probably, your doctor might tell you need some of these medications. So one of the phosphate binders is one of the medications that your doctor might tell you need. These can be divided from binders that have calcium and those that are without calcium, and your doctor will let you know which one do you need, okay? Vitamin D, if you have vitamin D deficient, again, your doctor or your healthcare provider will tell you how much you need and for how long you need to take it, and then if you need maintenance dosage, okay? Also, the vitamin D analogs, this is to manage PTH, okay? So vitamin D analogs can be ordered orally, or if you're in dialysis, it could be also administered during your treatment. So if you have PTH levels, your doctor will determine the dosage and what type of vitamin D analog you need. And also calcimimetics are used to manage PTH, okay? And as a last resource, if we can't manage PTH, then your doctor might suggest a parathyroidectomy. So you see here the thyroid, which is the gland that looks like a butterfly, and then the 4 circles that have been, these are the PTH glands that have been enlarged. So they have grown, and as they grow, as time passes, then sometimes medications can control them, and they keep producing a lot of PTH. So then the alternative is to remove them so that you don't have excess PTH in your bloodstream. And after a parathyroidectomy, you will need calcium supplementation, and that the treatment, your doctor will tell you the treatment that you will need to help you with your bone health, okay? Because you already know that high PTH and high phosphorus levels are not good for bone health or for heart health. So to summarize, I hope that you, after this class, you understand the importance of managing your phosphorus, your calcium, your PTH, your vitamin D levels, how you can do it with food. And when we can't do it just with food, then the other medical treatments that are available. So you have a better quality of life, and you have less mortality rates and all the bad consequences we talked at the beginning. Remember to include a variety of foods. Try to eat all of the colors. Try to eat enough fiber. And if you need any help with your diet, consult with your medical team, with your dietitian, so they can give you specific recommendations for you, okay? So the DPC Education Center thanks you for your interest in this program and for completing the feedback form. Remember to fill that out. You can tell the DPC how you enjoyed this class, and you can also suggest future topics for the future. And you can become a free member of the DPC and enjoy its benefit at this link. And remember to follow them in Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, or Instagram. So have a great day. Hope that you learned something new today, and that this helps you to follow a low phosphorus diet for bone health and heart health. Have a nice day.